Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the show, and welcome to another fabulous episode in our Audible series on how to build a login component. And so, seeing as how we're kind of wrapping up on the Audible series, I kind of wanted to ask you guys right off the bat what it is that you want to see me build for my next video series. And whatever you guys want, please leave a comment down below, and I'll take a look and see if there's a common reoccurring theme, and then I'll kind of consider the couple of options that I have in my head and what it is that you guys want to see on the channel. Okay, with that being out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with our video today. And I'm going to show you what it is that the simulator is showing for our current application. And it is doing a lot. In the last episode, we were able to implement this keyboard here that pushes the view out of the way of the keyboard. And in today's video, I want to show you guys how to actually implement the controls that you see on the very top right here, namely the skip button and the next button on the top right. And let me show you exactly what that looks like in our application here. As I hit the next, it goes from one page to the next, obviously. And if I hit the skip button from any of these various pages, it'll skip all the way to the end of the collection view page component. And in addition to skipping, it moves the controls, the skip button, the next button, and the page control. It moves them off the screen. So that's something that I want to show you guys what the code looks like for that kind of behavior inside our view controller class. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Hope you guys are excited for today's video. Okay, and the file that we are interested in looking at is the view controller. And at the very top, we have two buttons, the skip button and the next button. That corresponds to the top two buttons, obviously. And I want to first show you how to implement this behavior where you click the next button, right? And it just slides the page over like that. So let's go ahead and handle the target that responds to actually touching the button. And to do that, I want to go ahead and say, let's see, next button.add target. And with a target of self selector, I'm going to call it next page. So I have a little bit of a comment to say about the next page naming, but let's finish this up first. So now we're going to see that we're missing this function called next page for our selector. So let's create it right below. And now we need to make sure that this compiles. So I'm going to build the project, and it is not happy because this is not a lazy var. So once I do that and build the project, it's going to be fine. Now in Swift 3, what I notice is that it doesn't exactly tell you the reason why it's crashing. So what I mean is, if I just keep this as a let right here and build it, sometimes this warning doesn't even show up. And you just get this segmentation fault right here that is really bizarre, and it's pretty overwhelming to take a look at what exactly this is telling you. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell you that all you need to do is specify lazyvar for the variable instantiation. And here we go. Whenever we tap on this next button, we want to execute some code. So let's just say next like this. And now that we have this print statement, I'm going to expect a console printout that has the string of next when I hit next, and that is what we get. So pretty good way to start off the video, nice and easy. And here we go with the more difficult aspect of the next button. And that is to actually translate to the next page. And to do that, I am going to just simply call CollectionView, which is this entire component here. And then we'll call scrollToItem. And scrollToItem just takes in an index path, and it'll just scroll the collection view directly to that index path. And we'll create this index path here. Let's see, index path equals index path right here. Let's use this new Swift 3 constructor. All we have to say is item and section. So the reason why we don't use row in here, that might be some of you guys having that question, is because item is used for collection views and row is used for table views. It doesn't make a huge difference, but that's just some of the convention that Apple decided to adhere to. Anyhow, index path. So the first obvious input is to just use a section of 0 because we only have one section in this entire collection view. And the next parameter, item, is the somewhat trickier part. So item is the page that we want to scroll to. And let's assume that we are on the very first page. When we hit this next button, we want to get to the next page. And to easily find out what that value is, we can say current page, or current, page control dot current page plus 1. So at the very beginning, it's 0, and then you add 1 to it, you get to this next one right here. And that's how that will work. So I'm going to remove the print statement, type in index path for the scroll, and right here you can just hit dot centered horizontal and animation of true. So with all this code typed out right here, let's see, change that to a lowercase I, and now we're passing in the correct variable. So I'm going to remove the file explorer just to get some more space. And the application is up with this next behavior where we click on next, and it just kind of goes to the next page starting from page 0. And now as we hit next, we would expect it to keep on going further and progress to the end of the collection view. But the reason why it's not doing that is because this current page needs to be modified like this. So page control dot current page. Let's see. This syntax right here, plus means to change that variable and add a 1 to the variable, basically incrementing it by 1. But because the folks at the Swift team, for some reason, they don't really like the plus operator, they decided to deprecate it, or not even deprecate it, but take it out completely and replace it with plus equals 1, which is, I guess, a little better in terms of programming practices. Okay, enough about that. Let's test out what the next button does by clicking on next here, and it goes to the next page, and then you click next, it goes to the next. And at the very end, if you try to click next one more time, it'll crash because we are now out of the bounds of our collection view. So basically, there is no more, there's no more page, or the index path that we're specifying doesn't scroll to a valid page. So that's why we get a crash. And to fix this, right, we will just say if page control dot current page is equal pages dot count, we'll just return and not do anything. So what this means is that we are, let me just comment here, we are on the last page. And let's see if that works. So next, and bam, next right here. The application no longer crashes, which is exactly what we want. So let's see what we want to do now. Okay. The first thing I want to do is to implement the behavior that occurs when I scroll to the very last page. And you notice how all these controls, the skip next button and UI page control, they all scroll off the screen. And whenever I click this next button right here, the controls remain on the last view, which is not exactly what we want. And the question now is, how do I mimic the behavior of actually swiping? So I'm going to go into this method right here. If I hit Control-6, scroll view, we'll end dragging right here. This is the behavior that causes all the things to animate off screen. So basically we're setting the constraints in one of the previous videos, we set all this up. And the idea is I want to call that same behavior. So I'm going to do this the crude way of copying and pasting first, and then I will show you how to refactor your code so that you don't have to copy and paste, which causes a lot of headache in the long run. And the idea is whenever I am on the second last page, so this page right here, I will just do this. So if page control dot current page equals pages dot count -1. So basically I'm on the second last page and I'm scrolling over, and that's what will occur here. So second last page. And so when I scroll over, I want to execute some some kind of behavior to move things off the screen. So let's see if I can just print out move controls off screen here, and then see if this print statement actually does anything when I'm on the second last page. So there we go. We will swipe, and I'm on the second last page. One more swipe like this. And am I here? Let's see. One more. Okay, not swiping, but hitting the next button. So I'm gonna hit this next button over here. So next, and next gives me this breakpoint right here. Remove that, print out the statement down here, and there we go. So now we are pretty much good to go in terms of implementing this behavior here. So what I want to do, let me just remind you, is when I swipe over like that, you see all the controls move out the screen. I want to have the exact same behavior when I click on this next button. And here we go. So let's see. Inside of this right here, I have all those constraint changes. And then I'm going to go back up here and copy and paste all that code in there. All right, and then I will go back down and I will cause the animation to occur as well. So this is what animates the constraint changes, and I'm going to paste that in there and then run the application now. We should be able to see the next button causing the controls to also animate off the screen. So next, and the final next will move the controls off the screen. So that's quite good. That's quite good. And the next thing I want to talk about is this right here. So I just did a lot of copy and pasting, and I will do something called refactor the code to save us a little bit of pain. So for example, if someone changes this 40 value up here, they pretty much also have to change these 40 values down below. So why don't we save ourselves the headache and type in a method here. And this method will be called, a private method of, move control constraints off screen. That's the method name. Makes sense to me. I'm going to cut this out here, paste that down here, and I will call this function in place of those 3 lines. So that function is that. So I just copied all of that in my clipboard here, and then I will replace all of this, including the print statement, and just move it off the screen. Now running the application here. Okay, let's see. Good old T. So I'm gonna hit next, and next. So the controls actually animate off the screen like that, just like what I would expect. And the refactoring of the code helps us reduce the amount of repetitive or the amount of redundant lines in our program. So that's always helpful. And if a senior engineer ever sees that you're repeating your code, he will definitely let you know about it in one way or another. Okay, the next thing I want to show you guys how to do is to implement this skip button right here. So the skip button is kind of interesting. And let me just go over to the completed application. So you notice if I'm on the last page, if I skip, it just goes to the last page. And if I skip from the beginning, it kind of scrolls through all of the pages and lands on the last one. And I want to show you guys how to implement this skip behavior. So first, let's move up to wherever the skip button is up here. And let's do the same thing of changing this to lazy var first. Why don't we? And down here, we'll say button add target. Let's see, target of self selector of skip like that. Does that work? Yeah, I think that works. So touch inside the button. It's kind of creepy, but that's what they decided to call it. And here we go, function skip like so. And now we have this skip function right here, and I want to actually implement the skip behavior that takes me all the way to the last page. And here is how I'm going to do it. Oh, the easiest way actually takes only 2 lines. So it only needs 2 lines. So let's see. We only need 2 lines to do this. And I know that because I've already done this before the recording, obviously. And the trick here is to utilize this next page. And the idea is you don't want to do all this calculation to figure out, okay, I'm on the first page, then I move to the last page, or if I move from this page and then I do some other math. So that's a lot of work, and a lot of that is already inside of this next page method. And the idea is if I simply say page control dot current page is equal to pages dot count -1, and I call next page, that will do two things. First, it changes the current page to the second last page, which gets us in there somewhere. And then it will call next page from that page, and then it goes to the very end. So bam, we get to the last page. And in addition to scrolling to the last part, we also animate these controls off the screen. So we get to kind of kill two birds with one stone. That's pretty good. I definitely like being able to reuse my methods whenever possible. And one thing that I was going to mention about this next button, this next page method that we're calling, is that you have to be very careful not to call this thing, this function next. And the reason is, so if I try to build this right now, it'll give me this weird use getter to refer to Objective-C getter of property next. And if you don't know what that means, I wouldn't be surprised, because it took me a while to figure out what the heck it was actually talking about. And the problem here is there's actually this next thing on UIView controller, and it's trying to refer to this next guy up here. And originally I was implementing this function like this, and having this here and having this there, it was telling me to do this, which was absolutely incorrect, and my function was not getting called. So be very careful about that. I'm just going to undo all this away, and next page is back. So make sure to call your function something else other than next. Otherwise, your application is not going to work. All right, there we go. Another episode in the vault. Hope you guys enjoyed today's very, very interesting episode on implementing controls and their behaviors. So make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And one more time, don't forget to leave that comment on what it is that you want me to build out for my next video series. And lastly, don't forget that the code for this entire project is available in the description below. So make sure to go ahead and download that and play with the program before you start to wonder why your program's not working. All right, that's it for me, guys. Keep on coding. I'll see you next time. Bye.